Adanne and Ngozi are two childhood friends who had lived for many years. Their bond went beyond friendship. They were like sisters, sharing everything from childhood games to their deepest secrets. Both women married strong and hard-working men, and soon after, they were both blessed with daughters. Adanne's daughter, Miracle, was born first, a child of joy and laughter. A few months later, Ngozi gave birth to Olachi, her own bundle of happiness. As the girls grew, Adanne and Ngozi watched over them with love and care. Adanne, a woman of wisdom, always stressed to Miracle the importance of caution. My dear, she will say, you must never accept food or gifts from strangers. Some hands that offer gifts have dark intentions. Not every food is meant to nourish, and some can bring harm. Miracle, though still young, took her mother's advice seriously, and she made it her rule to politely refuse any food offered by those she did not trust. Ngozi, on the other hand, was more relaxed. While being suspicious, she would say, the world is full of kind people, and giving is a gesture of goodwill. She never thought to warn Olachi about the dangers of accepting food from strangers, believing that it was an unnecessary fear. So while Miracle grew cautious, Olachi grew bold, never hesitating to accept any offering, no matter who made it. Despite their different outlook, the two girls became best friends, spending countless hours together. They attended the same school, played in the same field, and shared their hope and dreams. The villagers saw the girls as inseparable, two pears in a pod. Both little did they know the seeds of something dark were being planted. The quiet village of Nkebe was disrupted one rainy morning by the arrival of a new teacher. Her name was Miss Ebere, and she was unlike any teacher the children had ever seen. She was tall and graceful, with long flowing hair that seems to shimmer in the light, and eyes that glowed with an airy intensity. There was something unsettling about her, yet the children were drawn to her beauty and charm. Even the other teachers who were used to the village's simple ways were captivated by her presence. But Miss Ebere was not as she seemed. Beneath her elegant exterior was a woman of dark power. She was a witch sent to Nkebe on a mission. Her task was simple: to find a child and initiate them into her coven, binding them to the forces of darkness. And she had set her sight on miracle. Each day, Miss Ebere would bring a basket filled with freshly baked biscuits, offering them to the children. The biscuits were sweet and delicious, and the children loved her for it. But Miracle, remembering her mother's warning, always politely refused. "Thank you, Miss Ebere," she would say. "But my mother says I should never take food from strangers." Olachi, on the other hand, eagerly accepted the biscuits every time. "Thank you, Miss Ebere," she would say with a bright smile, savoring each bite. She believed in the kindness of people, and Miss Ebere's gift seems no different from those of any other friendly neighbor. Miss Ebere grew frustrated as she watched Miracle reject her offerings. Her mission depended on getting Miracle to eat one of the cursed biscuits, and so far her plan had failed. But she was patient, knowing that with time she would find a way. One afternoon, as the children played outside during their lunch break, Miss Ebere saw an opportunity. The rain had stopped, and the sun peeked through the cloud, casting a golden glow on the schoolyard. While the children were distracted, Miss Ebere slipped one of the cursed biscuits into Miracle's lunch bag without anyone noticing. When lunch time arrived, Miracle opened her lunch bag, expecting her usual meal: a piece of fruit, some rice, and a small cake her mother had baked. But among her food, she found something unusual: a large, shiny biscuit that she had never seen before. She frowned, holding the biscuit in her hand. It was unlike any biscuit her mother would have given her. "This is not mine," she whispered to herself, examining it closely. There was something about it that felt wrong. Without hesitation, she tossed the biscuit onto the ground. "It must be someone else," she muttered, wiping her hands on her dress. But just as she turned to walk away, Olachi appeared from behind a tree, her eyes lighting up at the sight of the biscuit on the ground. Without thinking twice, Olachi picked up the biscuit, and despite its dirty appearance, ate it eagerly. "Yummy," she said, her mouth full of the sweet treat. She felt an odd sensation run through her, a strange energy that made her feel alive, yet somehow different. She couldn't place it, but something had changed inside her. That night, Olachi lay in her bed. She began to feel a burning fever. Her body was hot, and her dream was filled with strange whispers. Figure croaked, and shadow beckoned to her, calling her name in a low, haughty voice. "Join us, Olachi, join us," they whispered, their voice like a thunder wind. She woke up in a cold sweat, her heart pounding. But when she looked into the mirror the next morning, it was clear that something had changed. Her once bright eyes now gleamed with a coldness that unsettled even her own reflection. Olachi's behavior took a turn for the worst after she ate the cursed biscuit. At first, it was subtle. She began to ignore her mother's calls and disobeyed her father. When Ngozi asked her to do something, Olachi would glare at her with unblinking eyes, as if she no longer cared. The warmth in her once gentle voice was replaced by a harsh, commanding tone. One night, Ngozi went to check on her daughter, only to find her standing by the window, staring outside into the darkness. "Olachi, what are you doing?" she asked. Olachi turned slowly, her eyes filled with an unsettling emptiness. "I'm just waiting," she said cryptically, her voice carrying an unnatural calmness. The next day, Olachi refused to go to school. She told her mother she felt different, but her eyes gleamed with something darker. When she did go to school, she became more aggressive. She no longer played with the other children, but instead she bullied them. Smaller children cried when she passed by, and the teachers noticed how she seemed to command the room with an unnatural presence. Miss Ebere, watching from afar, smiled. The initiation was nearly complete. Olachi had already fallen under her control, and the darkness inside her grew stronger with each passing day. Olachi's transformation was swift and terrifying. She no longer resembled the sweet, innocent girl Ngozi had raised. Instead, she became wild, unpredictable, and reckless. She started associating with more dangerous individuals who spoke of dark powers and rituals. No one could recognize the child they once knew. Her mother, Ngozi, was heartbroken. She watched helplessly as her daughter spiraled further into the darkness. Olachi, where are you? What had happened to you? She cried, but Olachi only laughed, her eyes cold and distant. By the time Olachi reached secondary school, she had fully embraced witchcraft. She became involved in dark ritual, performing dangerous ceremonies under the moonlight. She used her newfound powers to manipulate and destroy, causing harm wherever she went. Her mission was clear: to destroy the righteous, bring down pastors, and spread chaos, and she succeeded. Several accidents shook the village. People died in strange circumstances, and marriages that once seemed strong crumbled. Olachi's influence spread like a disease, affecting everyone it touches. Even her father was not spared. One evening, after a brief confrontation with Olachi, he was involved in a life-threatening accident. Though he survived, his health and his business began to deteriorate. The family that had once been so happy now found itself on the brink of collapse. One day, Olachi was given a new mission: to destroy a powerful pastor who had come to Nkebe to preach. She entered the church as she had done many times before, blending in with the congregation. But this time was different. As the pastor began to preach, something strange happened. He stopped mid-sentence, his eyes narrowing as they fixed on her. The congregation felt silent, and Olachi felt a cold chill run down her spine. The pastor pointed at her. "You," he said, his finger trembling with power, "come forward." Olachi froze, her heart raced. How had he known? She couldn't explain it, but something deep inside her told her that this time was the moment of reckoning. Slowly, she stood and walked towards the altar, her feet heavy with fear. As she reached the front, the pastor placed his hands on her, and a deep voice erupted from her lips. "I have been here since she was a child. I made her what she is. She is mine." The church gasped in horror as the congregation watched in shock as Olachi possessed by the dark spirit, fell on her knees. The pastor began to pray fervently, calling for the spirit to release its hold on her. The battle for Olachi's soul was long and fierce. The darkness fought back with all its might, but the power of prayer and faith was stronger. With each prayer, the grip of the dark force loosened, and Olachi's eyes cleared. For the first time in years, she felt the weight of the darkness lift from her. As the prayers intensified, Olachi's voice returned to normal. She fell to her knee, sobbing uncontrollably. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't know. I didn't understand." Her mother, Ngozi, rushed to her side, holding her tightly. The tears flowed freely from both mother and daughter, and the village rejoiced as the darkness was finally driven away. In the weeks that followed, Olachi's life slowly returned to normal. Her father's business recovered, and her family found peace once again. But Olachi knew she could never forget the darkness that had almost consumed her. She spent the rest of her life telling her story, warning others about the dangers of accepting food from strangers and the importance of listening to the wisdom of their elders. The village of Nkebe would never forget the lesson they had learned. And from that day forward, every mother in the village remembered their children never take food from strangers, for some gifts are cursed. And so, peace returned to the land, and the curse of the biscuit was broken forever. Dear viewer, if you enjoy this piece of folk tales, do not forget to leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to turn on the notification button. See you next time. Thanks.